Like many food lovers, I like the idea of being seasonal and local wherever possible. But I've come down here to Riverford Farm to meet Guy Watson and ask him, after a really, really tough winter, how seasonal and local can we really expect to be? Guy Watson's Riverford Farm was one of the first high-profile vegetable box delivery schemes in the UK. Their success has run parallel to a growing awareness of seasonality and the desire to limit the distances our food travels. These days, they deliver about 47,000 boxes a week from their 5 farms around the UK. Each farm is supported by a cooperative of local organic farmers. You leased a portion off your dad and took it organic, is that right?
Yeah, tiny, a kind of 3-acre field, so, you know, football pitch and a half.
And when was that? How long ago?
That was 1986 I started.
What, was that a potty thing to do then, a sort of slightly mad, hippie thing to do?
Most people thought I was pretty crazy.
And what's the process of going organic?
2 years without any prohibited inputs, I suppose, is, you know, so in that case, I mean, mainly without nitrogen fertiliser because it was pasture and that was the only input it was getting. But there is also a kind of philosophical and mental process that you're going through, which generally takes a lot more than 2 years. Trying to come up with something which is more sympathetic and in tune with nature. That's kind of what I think organic farming is all about.
So what have we got growing in the fields around us here?
Okay, well, tiny bit of purple spraying broccoli there. We've got some tundra cabbages down there, which is like a sort of cross between a Savoy cabbage and a white cabbage. Got some spring greens just here. They've come through the winter. They will grow on a bit now as the days start getting longer. And then this is beetroot that was sown back in June, and we're just harvesting the last of it. It's been a very hard winter. I'm surprised to see that it's got any leaves left on it at all. And to be honest, because it's been so cold this winter, there are no cauliflowers to cut, no greens to cut, a tiny amount of purple sprouting. It's just really difficult to produce a kind of balanced, interesting box all year without imports. Everyone says that they want to eat local food and seasonally, but when you go and open their fridge,
yeah,
I'm afraid the reality of people's behaviour is somewhat different.
Okay, so this is the organic seasons box, no potatoes, I see.
That's right.
Okay, and so what's it got in it? What would I expect to get in my kitchen?
Well, I mean, with seasonal veg, I think it has 8 different lines. A balance of roots and greens. So there's some kale, that'll be either from our farm or from our co-op. The leeks, quite a large portion of leeks, but that's, yeah, they'll be from the co-op locally. A swede. Mushrooms, they're not ours, but they're UK mushrooms.
Right.
The onions, actually, I'm rather ashamed to say it won't be ours now. I think these may be Dutch.
So it's difficult in this
very
region
difficult.
To
we can't get them to keep. You know, we've had a very bad history of growing onions and drying them and having them all go rotten in store. Carrots.
We're famed. Dirty carrot.
Well, we're
the
famous
famous
for
dirty
our
carrot.
carrots. Yeah, these will be grown by our co-op. Parsnips really need to be grown on very well-drained sandy soil, and we don't have any, so we actually rent land where we can grow them. We call them Crown Prince squash, which are these are I think the best eating, and they're certainly the best keeping. Okay, so and then in the box each week there'll be the newsletter, which there's normally a page devoted to what's going on the farm, and then the rest of it is, that's really what the customers value, is the recipes, most of which come from Jane. A lot of people just don't have the cookery skills to be able to bring out, you know, the virtues of local vegetables. People are much more familiar with a pepper and an aubergine, both of which are in season for about 6 weeks now, than they are with a cabbage. It takes more skill. You know, you have to be a better cook to make those vegetables exciting, but it is possible, and the end result, in the end, is better. And I think it has a kind of authenticity which leaves me feeling better when I get up from the table, you know.
So these really are the lean months, aren't they?
Yeah.
And that's an incredible
people
spread.
Come here and, you know, we've got carrots cooked like that. I mean, those, I mean, they're probably glazed with a bit of butter and maybe some sugar, which personally I feel is unnecessary. I am a bit of a purist, but, you know, the parsnip puree is good with the flaked almonds. Purple sprouting broccoli is always a favourite right through the late winter and spring.
That might be our finest crop in this country, I'm convinced.
But I thought we should have done with the kale, actually. That's curly kale, which is probably one of the least popular vegetables in the box, but I mean, she's brought it to life with olive oil, garlic, and there's certainly some anchovies in there.
And the juice from the lamb doesn't do it any harm either.
It's fantastic, isn't it? So I don't know, it gives people go away inspired, I thinking, God, I didn't know I could do that with those vegetables.
For centuries, British people living off the land have had to contend with a period when there's very little in the field, the so-called hungry gap. I wanted to ask Jane Baxter, the chef, how she keeps reinventing what is available.
I think we're still in quite a good time of year. I mean, it gets really grim, sort of April, May, and that's the time when you're yearning for spring to start, and it started weather-wise, but it hasn't started as far as your supposed spring vegetables. You know, they're ready in Italy and France, but they're not ready here. The things that people get really annoyed about are cabbages. They're fed up with cabbages. You can treat it simply, or you can sort of go to town and make an amazing Italian anchovy soup with it. You know, there's lots of things you can do.
You seem to take seriously the idea of teaching people how to use the veg. I mean, you have the little leaflet that goes out in the box.
Yeah.
You wrote the
Yeah.
and there's a book as well.
Yeah, we wrote a book a couple of years ago, and it was the brief was basically to write a book that was going to be really useful for people who do get a box regularly and are struggling, and I think quite a lot of people do struggle with certain vegetables.
So what's the baked custard? What's this one?
It's fairly clear that for Guy's business to survive, he has to bridge the hungry gap by importing produce. But now he's gone one step further and bought a farm in France.
So the farm in France is 250 miles by road from here. It's actually in a car closer than the Fens. So, you know, yeah, the sensible place if you want to get to a different climatic zone is to go south. You know, it will be picked there one day and it will be here being packed. So just the same as if it came out of our fields here, you know, in terms of freshness. Personally, I'm not a little Englander. I don't know, I mean, some of our customers might feel differently, but whether it's grown by a Frenchman or an Englishman, I couldn't give a damn, to be honest. You know, we're supporting, you know, family farms there like we do here, and
It's very hard to argue about carbon footprint on something, and when you talk about those distances, I suppose.
most environmental impact is caused by of distributing food is caused in the last stage, but you know, i.e. getting it home from the supermarket. For most people, that's massively the largest part. You know, it's not the lorries. You know, lorries are a very efficient way of moving somewhere. It's moving stuff in the back of your car. You know, in our case, our vans are 26% of the carbon footprint of the whole box scheme is just the vans delivering, whereas the lorries moving the stuff around the country is only 13%. I am an advocate of local food, and you know, partly on environmental grounds, but mainly because I think it's important that people feel a connection with where their food comes from.
The excitement of the box arriving and the inspiration that occurs from it is really quite fascinating.
And actually, local food, or you know, food that has some sort of provenance that you get excited, doesn't actually necessarily mean it coming from down the road.
Supermarkets and restaurants now use the words seasonal and local, the way they used to use the word fresh. Meeting Guy has shown me that the issues are definitely not cut and dried. For me, the beauty of the vegetable box scheme is about provenance and the excitement of unexpected quality ingredients. Guy has a slightly grander worldview.
I always say to my staff, they always look a bit bemused when I say it, but the business is here to make the world a better place. And mostly it's the world a better place according to Guy Watson, because obviously we all have our different views about what would make the world a better place.